Today we have a very special guest who is going to share her truth with us about dating after 50. Today we have Alysse Daniels with us. And Alysse and I have had many conversations about this dating thing now that we're past 50 and I'm 60. I say that because you guys have been sending me messages about, well, how old are you? You haven't said how old you are, so now you know. All right, so we've been talking about dating, and before we get into it, I want to tell you a little bit about this wonderful lady. She is single. She has 3 daughters. She's brilliant. She's been divorced, and I'm not telling her business. She wanted you guys to know that because it's relevant to what we're talking about today. And she has had the best advice when it comes to dating, what questions to ask when you're out. And I thought you all could benefit from it. I have been keeping her to myself for years, and so I'm sharing her with you now. All right, so we're going to welcome Alysse.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'm happy to be here.
You're welcome. I'm glad you are here. We're going to jump right into some questions. And the first question I have for her is, how has it been dating? How has it been different dating after 50 from when she was younger?
Well, that's a loaded question. And I think because there are so many factors to take into account. I think of, when I was dating in my 20s, you're looking for that mate, that companion that you're going to, do what we call this the dream outcome, right? Get married, buy a house, have children, and live happily ever after. Mm-hmm. Well, with that, in my early 20s, I didn't know what that really meant, and I didn't therefore know what to look for as far as your lineup of your values, financial, and all your goals. So now dating past 50, especially after having been divorced, those are the things that I'm looking for. I'm not looking for just the most handsome man and fine man and funny man in the world. I'm looking for someone who has lived a really good life and wants to continue that and travel and have fun and really be a true friend and companion, more so than just trying to say, let's do these things in this order.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So listen, I was just thinking this while Alysse was talking. I know that we have some male viewers, mm-hmm. and I know that you guys are going to ask me how to get in touch with her. I'm going to let her think about that while we're on the show, while we're doing the show, if she wants to give that information out directly, or if she wants you guys to drop a DM in about this aging thing on Instagram, and then I can pass it on to her. But I know she's going to get some, so I just thought about that. All right, so what has been the biggest challenge right now, dating after 50?
I think there's 2 things. So the first one is having the access to meet people in the similar age, space, and mindset. Because a lot of men over 50, what I've come across is that they're kind of in 2 buckets, right? Mm-hmm. One is maybe they're newly divorced because they've waited till the kids went off to school or for whatever reasons. And so they kind of want to just get out there and explore and date a lot of people. And the other category I've come across is they've been single for a while and they're kind of set in that way of being single, and I'm maybe not ready to really introduce someone else into their life, into their space. For me, the issue that I've come across personally is the time to get to know someone. And I think that's one of the differences between dating younger versus dating now. My life is very full. You've got work, you've got kids, you've got friends, family. And so actually finding the time to be able to have meaningful dates. And I think meaningful conversations. In this society, everyone wants to text a message, right? Well, you can't get to know someone if you're just texting, good morning, how was your day? Good evening, I hope you had a good day. You have to have face-to-face and true conversations and not just trying to send quick text messages.
Do you have an age? You talked about younger and older. Do you have an age range when it comes to dating right now?
I do. It's not my preference to date younger, and I have a variety of reasons for that. I don't mind dating my age or older. I've kind of put my cap at no more than 10 years older than me. Mm-hmm. And it might sound crazy, but I can't date someone that I could have either been the mom for, which is why I don't want to date much younger, or that someone could have been so far ahead of me that we don't have a lot in common. So I think 10 years, my preference is really 5, because I want us to still be active. Not saying that someone 10 years older than me isn't active, but sometimes there is a change in lifestyle the older someone gets.
Now, we have talked about this before. When you meet someone, some questions that you should be clear about from the very beginning so you don't waste your time. So would you share some of those questions that you've come across with the people that have tried to date you?
Yes. So back in the day, I used to just ask, are you single? And the answer would be yes. And then you go on a date or two and it's like, well, I'm single, but I'm actually engaged. But I said I was single because I'm technically not married. Okay, that's not single. Okay. Right. Or I've been told, because for me early on, I need to go to someone's home, and it's not necessarily looking at, how big is their house, how fancy is their house, but are they the only ones who live in that house? And there's very easy ways to tell if someone's a bachelor or if they're, kind of cohabitating with someone and they're trying to keep it secret. So as a part of the Are You Single, it's now a series of questions. So are you single? Are you married? I now specifically ask that. Are you engaged?
Wow.
Do you live with anyone? And then more significantly, the question I've started asking lately is there anyone in your life who thinks you're not single? Because a lot of times a man's perspective might be, yeah, I'm single. I mean, we just hang out and we kick it from time to time. But the woman in his life's definition might be, he's the only one I'm seeing, and so therefore we're in a relationship.
Right.
So that communication gap definitely plays out to me between men and women and what they think single is and what they think it's not.
Yeah, because now we do process things differently. That's a really good point, because women, even though it has not been established verbally, we tend to assume that we're in a relationship because we've decided that this is the only guy I'm seeing. Some of us are brave enough to ask if that guy is seeing anyone else, and some of us won't ask because A, we may not want to know the truth, or B, we just assume that they must be just seeing me because I'm just seeing them, which is not a smart way to go. So you got to really put yourself out there and ask those pertinent questions and be ready for the answer. Don't make assumptions. And I like what you said about seeing how they're living, not about how they're living, but where they live, to see if they are living alone. It also says a lot about their personalities too, and if you even will mesh well based on how they're living. Like, did they clean up just for you? Does it look like they always stay clean? Questions like that.
And I think, I just want to add, because I think I mentioned you want to ask the question, are you married? And it seems like you shouldn't have to, but I found, and maybe it's something specific to Atlanta, maybe it's not, that people are boldly married and boldly open to date, and boldly able to go out on the town. It's not the days of where you're hiding and meeting in secret.
Right.
I've had gentlemen actually call me from home, and I'm thinking, once I found out they were married, I'm like, how did you call me? And you said you were chilling watching the basketball game. And they've said, well, I was downstairs in the basement watching the game and she was upstairs. And it's like, you guys are really bold, so you have to clearly ask that question.
Yeah, that's
to be
true.
sure.
I've had a guy recently speak to me and ask for my number. And in the midst of the conversation, I hadn't given him my number. But in the midst of the conversation, mentioned his girlfriend. And I was so confused. I was like, wait. So, he was letting me know up front that he had a girlfriend, but he wanted me to be his girlfriend too. And I guess if that's your thing, it wouldn't be offensive, but I was a bit offended by it. Anyway, moving right along, this is a great conversation. A lot of women ask me about this, and we have a lot of conversations about this. Let's talk about when you go out. When you're going out on a date and you're there with the date, what are you looking for in that person's personality and the way he's being with you? What are you looking for? And what are the red flags, if any? Okay,
good question. So I'm looking for genuineness. I'm looking for someone to be kind. It could sound minor, but I always speak to the waiter, the waitress, hello, how are you? Some people can be quite rude at the very front end with a waiter or waitress, or if the food's delayed. So there's so many little things you can just see from having a meal with someone. I think if your eyes and ears are open, I'm looking for someone who's affectionate, right? And even if it's a first date, people can show that affection without being like all on you. It's sometimes like, okay, as they walk you to the table, is their hand kind of going to your lower back? Are they pulling out your chair? Are they asking you what you'd like to eat, or if you've even been here? So again, keeping it, you can get little signs in that. The other thing I'm looking for is someone who can communicate. Like I said earlier, so often we're so quick to text that a lot of people don't have the art of communication. So if we can't sit across the table, talk about our day, talk about our interests, then to me, you're probably not going to be able to build a strong relationship with me long term. The other thing I do is I listen really closely. So for example, if I say, oh, so do you have any siblings? Well, I do, but I haven't talked to my brother in like 10 years because he's ... Oh, okay. I file that away. Obviously, I can't make a full judgment or assumption. But if you haven't spoken in 10 years, there's probably some underlying issue or reason. I always ask about their parents. You know, how's your mom, your dad? You can tell so much with how they respond. I mean, I've literally had a person say, will that be? And I'm like, well, we can go ahead and get the check now. Because to me,
about their mother?
Yeah, like,
oh, wow.
When I say, oh, how's your mom? And they say, oh, that be, I'm like, well, we can go ahead and get the check, because if you're going to call the person who brought you into the world a be, then obviously we have very different values.
Right.
At this age, a lot of men have children, whether they were, married and had children or out of wedlock. And I typically will ask, how are your children or your child? And that response tells a whole lot. I dated one guy, again, the first date, and he's like, oh yeah, she's good. I haven't seen her since last year. And it's like, last year? So I'm thinking, well, does she live in another country? And he's like, no, she's in Florida. And I'm like, okay, we're in Atlanta. So for me, that shows, again, what do you prioritize? And again, I know there can be situations. So men, before y'all jump on me and say, you don't know the situation with my daughter's mom and this and that. I understand all that. But I also know if your priority is your child, you deal with what you have to deal with to see your child. Having 3 children, I don't want you coming around trying to be the the best stepdad in the whole wide world, and you're not even seeing your own child. To me, that's important. I look at how they act about the bill. I know again, some people will say, well, you can't do that in the modern days, but I think I can. I'm old fashioned, and I don't think I should have to worry about, can I order what I want to order? If the bill comes, are we both looking at each other? Because I've had that happen, and it's like, no, at this age and stage, if you're gonna take me out to eat, I'm gonna order what I want to eat. I'm not gonna try to look at the value part of a menu at a restaurant.
There's so many things I want. There's so many things I want to talk about while she's talking. I'm like, okay, wait. I was gonna ask about that. The culture has changed so much, right? And I've heard many men say that even one of my nephews told me this recently, that if they go out with a woman and the woman offers to pay, that puts them up on a whole nother level. Like, they are in love instantly, because they feel like that woman is progressive and considerate and doesn't feel like they're supposed to do everything. But you kind of already answered how you felt about that. The other thing I want to talk about was children. We have talked about this before, and the responses that you've gotten based on you saying you have children. Now, I dated a guy, and it took a month for him to tell me he had a son. And he said he didn't tell me because I had said initially, I was younger, that I didn't want to date a man that had children. I was probably 28, 29 when I said it. So he didn't tell me. And then I found out by hearing the little boy in the background went down the phone. I was like, who's that? He's like, oh, it's my son. I didn't want to tell you. He was waiting for me to get all caught up. And then he springs it on me that he has a son. It was too late then, because by that point I liked him, right? So I dealt with it. But I wanted to talk to you about this, because we talked about this before, about men and how they respond to you if you say you have one child versus 3 children. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I sure can. And before I do that, I want to just circle back to who pays the bill.
Okay.
Because I just do want to clarify. For me, it's that first date or two that it's very important that a man, steps up and, asks me out for the date. I don't believe in assuming we're going on a date. And also pays for the date. I think after a couple of those, I'm fine with taking turns and I'm fine with sharing that. But I think, you should ask someone out and you should pay for that person when you take them out.
And let me just say a little bit more to that before we get to the kids. The other thing is she doesn't need anybody to pay her meals. Okay, let's be clear on that. She can pay that. She can pay the meal if she wants to pay the meal. It's about principle. That's what I want to say. Because some people would be like, oh, the gold digger, or women always trying to get something. This is not one of them. So I'm saying that to say, like, I get what you're saying, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Especially, you can also see if they're as traditional. You call yourself old-fashioned, but I would think, to me, you're more traditional. There's nothing old-fashioned about you. So I think you're more traditional, and I think it's about the principle of the matter, not about the coins. I just want to be clear that, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not about the money, because, we ain't got to worry about that. All right, let's get to the children. And tell me, you have told me some great stories about men's responses, how wonderful they've been, and as soon as you tell them you have children that are grown, basically. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I first got divorced, my children were young, and I honestly didn't have the time to get to know someone and build a relationship because they'd be gone every other weekend, every few days, and it's hard to do that. So as you said, as they've gotten older, I have the time and the ability to do that. And I could meet someone and the chemistry's there. We're talking, we're excited. And then I can say, oh, I have 3 daughters. And literally the whole facial expression changes. I've done actually an experiment where I'll say I have 1 daughter to see how people respond versus 2 versus 3. And I've even joked with my girls, like, okay, when I meet someone this week, I'm going to say I have no children and see what happens, right? And then 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids. And I think part of it is their assumption or concept of who I am as a single mom, right? I co-parent extremely well with my children's father. And I think they assume, oh, she's going to need or want this, this, and this. But actually what I need or want is someone to take care of me because I take care of them and they're good at what they have and what they need. So for me, sometimes if I don't really like that person, it's like good riddance. If I kind of like them and I think it's worth it, I'll kind of explain my situation. And then conversely, I'll meet someone who will literally say, oh, you've got 3 kids. Oh, when's the volleyball game? I want to come. And it's like, whoa, now you're moving way too fast because they have their father. Beyond that, they have their support group in their village. And I don't introduce them to people because they don't need that father figure. It's about who's going to be in my life for me individually.
When you say, I need them to take care of me, can you clarify that a little bit? Because I know what people go to. And you're not talking about, again, we're not talking about money. We're talking about what? What's that look like for you?
Time, effort, consideration. In my job, I'm extremely busy. There are times I travel every week. There's times I'm in 2 cities a week, right? So when I come home, it would be nice to have the consideration of, hey, stop by. I picked up some dinner. Or do you want me to pick you up from the airport and we go grab a bite to eat? Or this weekend, I know you've been on the road. Let's go have some fun and take a hike in the park or have a picnic. So for me, it's like having that comfort piece because I feel I give so many people so much and to have someone pour into me a bit and just support me in that way. I know you've said I don't need the support financially. What I do like and want is that whoever I'm dating, they're able to take care of their stuff. Take care of your stuff. I can take care of my stuff. And then we can just spend time taking care of each other. I'm definitely past the stage of, hey, I've got a great business idea. Let's talk about it. Do you want to support me in it? I cannot do that, right? And some people take that the wrong way. Hey, I'm over 50. I'm looking at trying to end my career, not trying to start something brand new with someone. And I think, honestly, the romantic part, being single, I miss just the romance. And again, you said traditional. I like that. I like the romance of flowers. I like the romance of surprises and little gifts. They don't have to be big things. And I just like to know someone's thinking about me and wants to spend time with me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you spoke to the monetary thing, because I was going to bring that up again one more time to say it's not just because you don't, a woman, not just you, just in general, just because you don't need someone else's money doesn't mean that you don't want them to spend their money on you.
Exactly.
Those are nice gestures. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to speak to that as well, and to be able to meet me where I'm at, and me not need you for that, and you not need me for that. So I get what you're saying. Also, I wanted to address what we're drinking today, everybody. I hope you guys have your glasses. So remember, I was saying that we don't always have to drink alcohol. I know you think that's all I do, but I really don't. And today is apple juice in an apple juice goblet. So, and it's good, right?
It's really very good, actually.
All right, so I just wanted to speak to that. Let's see what else. There was something else I want to talk to you about the children. We talked about the children. This is the other thing I want to say. You're looking at Alysse, right? You hear her speaking. The other thing this is just a little something I want to add. She can cook. She cooked very well. Okay. Now, she hasn't been doing it lately. I don't want to bring it up. I've known her this is our 34th year of knowing each other. I know y'all say everybody on the show is your friend. Well, this is what I got to get my friends in first before I get other people. People have been asking me, when can I be on the show? And I was like, as soon as all my friends get on the show, then I'll put you on the show. But anyway, she can cook, and she's a whole lot of fun. She's a great dancer.
I need her to create my online dating profile.
I'm being silly, but she's a whole lot of fun. She's a ball of fun. Anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. Dating. Right now, when you're dating, are you dating to have fun? Do you, at this point in your life, now I know you're not speaking for every woman over 50, and neither am I, but for you personally, because I know there are other people out here who feel just like you do, and I feel like when you speak it, they're like, oh, that's how I feel. So are you dating with a purpose? Or are you dating to have fun? And at this point in your life, you're settled in, I want that question, and then how do you feel about who you are right now? Are you able to be flexible at all, to pivot at all, or are you like, this is who I am, and if you got to meet me right here? Like, how does that work for you now?
Okay, so I'm dating to be in a relationship. So I know people have different definitions of dating. For me, dating is that I'm trying to get to know you, you're trying to get to know me, and we're trying to make a decision. Are we trying to proceed any further to be in a stable, committed relationship? And I always use that with men when we're talking, when they're like, what is it you want? I'm like, a stable, committed relationship. I'm past what it has to be called, right? You know, when I was younger, it had to be, oh, this is my boyfriend, I'm his girlfriend, or I'm the fiance, or I'm married, that's my husband, I'm his wife. I think for me, it's not what it's called so much as what it is, which is a stable, committed relationship that I know I have someone I can count on. As we age, and as I'm aging, you start having more loss in your life, whether it's from parents, family, and sadly, friends. And so that stability means I know I can call on this person and count on them to just hold me, if that's what it means, or, you know, be the wind behind my back to help me get through a tough or difficult situation. So that's what I'm dating for. And otherwise, I mean, past date 2 or 3, you kind of know if someone's dating just to play and have fun, or if they're dating to be serious. And because I don't have a lot of time, I don't need to entertain just dating to waste time and be out there in these ATL streets.
Right.
So.
Right. And what about how you are now? You've established yourself. You're over 50. Are you, as far as the pivoting goes, and how is it to be like, I know that I get I spend a lot of time with myself, and I realize I'm getting a little too comfortable there, and it almost doesn't matter anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I have to check myself. So how do you feel? Like, are you in a space where someone can come in and fit in your space, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder that about myself. Like, I don't know if they can come in and fit in my space. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that's a complicated question, because in my mind, I'm flexible and could make adjustments. I know the reality is date 1 or 2, it looks like my life is so full, there's no room for anyone. And I've actually had men say that to me, like, you have no space for a man in your life. Well, part of it is because I believe in staying active and busy. I've got a great group of sister friends, girlfriends. I enjoy my children tremendously. So some people don't understand when I'm like, yeah, we're going to the movies Friday night. We enjoy each other. However, you know, I want that person in my life. So I'm willing to be flexible to try to create time and make space for a person. But you do have to get probably past that second or third date before I even see, is it worth me trying to move stuff around and tell my girlfriends, no, I can't come because I'm going here. When I go there and it's like, oh God, why did I'd have so much more fun with my friends, or actually being at home right on my couch. Like you said, I am comfortable putting on a good movie and having a great old time with my glass of wine by myself. So just really realizing the age and stage is different. And what, to me, some men can offer is different as far as their energy level. I've had people say, you know, I can't even begin to keep up with you. You're like a party animal. And I'm like, actually, I'm really not. I just had a girlfriend who had a birthday last weekend and another one this weekend. So doing 2 parties in 2 weeks is not a party girl. But I realize from their perspective, they're couch potatoes, right? So that seems like I'm doing a lot. So I definitely need someone who has energy, who's outgoing, but also can understand if they don't want to go, that I'm probably still going to go.
And be okay with it.
And be okay with that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've talked to my other friends, and the challenge that we have is that men our age sometimes don't match our energy. And then younger guys are the ones that always try to talk to me. They're always younger, way younger. But the guys my age don't really try to talk to me, or they talk to me and they kind of like become my friends instead. And I know we've talked about that. And there's a funny meme on Instagram where the guy's in a wheelchair and he's like got like tubes coming out of him, and he's, you know, obviously very old, and the caption says, I'm finally ready to settle down. So the other piece of that I want to say really quickly before we end the show is, like, I know that men have some of the same challenges, and we're actually going to have a male guest on very soon to talk about relationships from the men's point of view. So I'm excited about that. But also I wanted to talk about real quickly with other women. Please chime in. Please leave your comments about what you'd like to see on the show and how you feel about this show and your experiences. If you can share something that's going to help other women, that would be great. Please share and like. I always forget to say this, right? So please share and like the show. We've been getting a great response. We're going to talk more about relationships as we go. Alysse is going to do a part 2. She doesn't know that. And we're going to do a whole forum with couples and just talk about what the challenges have been. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, and I don't like people to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing at a certain age. That really gets on my nerves. It's certain things I get that you have to do at a certain age because your body is just not going to cooperate with your brain who thinks it's younger, right? But I know quite a few male friends, and they're in their 50s or older, and they're just starting to decide that they want to have children. And we've both had this experience, right?
To that. I can literally, if I can say really quickly, was spending time with someone very compatible. We like doing a lot of the same things, in sync with each other. And one day we met for lunch, and in tears, he was in tears, said, you know, he adores me, knows he could be with me, but he realizes he's never had children and wants to have children. And I said, well, honestly, you have 2 options, you know, to date someone younger or date someone your age and come up with another route, whether it's a surrogate. But I'm not the option because I'm in a place where I have no desire to raise a child. And I think that goes back to what you're saying about men and women biologically and mentally, of where sometimes it takes them to get to want to even commit to someone to have a child with them.
Right. And then a friend of mine's right now, he's 53, and he just told me that he wants to have a baby. His challenge has been, he loves women. He actually loves women his age because they have a lot in common. But he has to get somebody younger to have this baby with him. And he knows someone now. He's dating someone younger, but he says they have really nothing to talk about. So that's a struggle for men, and it's sad to watch. And then the only thing I said was, you're going to be 71 if you have a baby right now at this moment. You'd be 71 when they graduate from high school, excuse me. And I'm not trying to put people in a box and say that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like, some things I think you just have to let go. You may have to let it go. And I'm not saying, because there's women that are 50 right now that I know too, that are in the process of becoming pregnant. So it goes. I'm not talking about that, but we're talking about dating,
right?
And that is also has been a bit of a hurdle to get over for us who are trying to date men who are compatible with us, and it's just an age. It's interesting. The whole thing is really interesting, and it's a lot to talk about. We can't cover it all in this one show, so we will be back with this conversation under our truth. I'm going to make this something that's in the forefront, because I know a lot of people have a whole lot to say about this already.
And if I can just add, when we get to the part 2, I'd love for us to talk about the topic of the dating pool. When you're at this age and stage in your life, like, how big is the pool to even meet people, to even determine if you're compatible? I think that's very important to cover.
Let me share this with y'all real quick. This is funny. So I was at a certain club. I'm not going to mention it. It's in Marietta.
I know which club. Yep.
And I was there with my daughter. Now, my daughter is 26. And I was there with my daughter, and we were there for an event, somebody's birthday. And we're sitting at a table, and my daughter sees all these older men, and she's like, "Oh, mommy, you should, look at that one, right?" I said, "Sweetheart, they're not looking at me, they're looking at you." And she was disgusted. She was like, "What do you mean they're looking at me?" She didn't even realize. And then a guy was coming toward our table, and she was like nudging me under the table, all excited, thinking and he went straight to her. And she couldn't believe it. She's like, Are you trying to talk to me? She couldn't believe it. So I'm not saying all men are doing that. I just think it's funny. It's a bit of a joke. It was funny. She was just so taken aback and realized that I once again had not lied to her about what we're going through out there. And I know men have some same challenges. I can't wait to hear the men's point of view. Thank you so much, Miss Alysse.
Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're beautiful. The energy that you brought to the show has been great. The camera lady is like just in awe of your glow. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in to About This Aging Thing. Black may not crack, but what about the other shit? I'm your host, Sabrina, and until next time, smile on the outside until you feel the same way on the inside.